The old hangar smelled of rain, oil, and forgotten dreams. Liam traced a finger through the dust on the wing of a dormant Cessna, his breath misting in the cool air. Outside, a relentless autumn squall swept across the vast plains, turning his small rural airstrip into a sea of mud. The wind howled a mournful song through the hangar's corrugated steel walls, a sound that mirrored the hollowness in his chest. This airstrip, a legacy from his father, was both his sanctuary and his prison. Once a passionate pilot himself, Liam had been grounded years ago by the harsh realities of single fatherhood. Now, his aircraft maintenance business was barely sputtering along, each unpaid invoice a weight that pulled him further from the sky he once called home. He heard his daughter, Lily, call for his attention. He turned to see the 8-year-old sitting on an overturned crate, her brow furrowed in concentration. In her sketchbook wasn't a child's simple drawing, but a remarkably detailed schematic of a P-51 Mustang. Her small hands moved with a purpose that belied her age. Pointing with her pencil, she explained that it was the laminar flow wing that made the plane so fast. Liam forced a smile, his heart a painful mix of pride and sorrow, telling her that her drawing was brilliant. Lily didn't look up. Her gaze was fixed on the storm-lashed window as she asked softly if he thought the clouds were angry that day. Her dream wasn't just to see a plane. It was to understand them, to feel the air currents, to become a pilot like the hero she believed her father still was. He knew the question she truly wanted to ask was if she would ever get to fly. He knelt beside her, the lie already forming on his lips, but he couldn't say it. The truth was a chasm between them. He could barely afford groceries, let alone flight lessons. As if the storm sensed his despair, a new sound cut through the wind, the strained, desperate whine of a small engine. Liam's head snapped up. An old pilot's instinct he thought long buried flared to life. Through the sheets of rain, he saw it. A sleek, single-engine plane, fighting a losing battle against the gale, tossed about like a leaf. It banked sharply, too sharply. A gust caught its wing, and it began to spiral downwards. He yelled for Lily to stay there, his voice raw. He didn't think. He just ran. He burst out of the hangar and into the fury of the storm. The cold rain was a shock, but adrenaline was a fire in his veins. He wasn't a failing mechanic anymore. He was a pilot racing to save one of his own. As he sprinted across the muddy field, the plane disappeared behind a line of trees, followed by the sickening crunch of metal and earth. He found the wreckage crumpled in a small clearing. The cockpit was shattered, and slumped over the controls was a woman, her face pale and still. A gash on her forehead was trickling blood. Liam's hands, usually steady with a wrench, trembled as he unbuckled her harness and gently pulled her from the twisted metal. With a surge of strength, he hoisted her into his arms. She was light, but the walk back through the clinging mud felt like miles. When he finally stumbled into the warm light of his hangar, Lily was standing there, her eyes wide with fear. Liam breathed that it was okay, and laid the woman gently on a clean tarp, telling his daughter that the woman needed their help. Lily didn't panic. She vanished into their small attached apartment and returned with the first aid kit and a stack of clean blankets. With a steady voice, she instructed him to keep pressure on the cut and explained that they needed to keep the woman warm to prevent shock. Liam stared at his daughter, seeing not a child, but a future commander. As they waited for the ambulance, he learned the pilot's name from the ID in her flight jacket. Evelyn Reed. The name struck him like lightning. Not just any pilot. Evelyn Reed was a legend. An air race champion, a ferry pilot who had crossed oceans. He was holding the hand of aviation royalty. A week later, a sleek black car, looking utterly alien on the gravel track, pulled up to the hangar. Evelyn Reed stepped out, moving with a slight limp, but with an undeniable aura of confidence. She greeted Liam by name, with a genuine smile, admitting she didn't know how to thank him and his first officer. She winked, and Liam knew she meant Lily. Liam mumbled that anyone would have done the same, suddenly feeling shy in her presence. But Evelyn disagreed, her gaze firm. She insisted that not everyone would have. A pilot would have. She had seen the old charts in his office and noted the way he checked her pulse and secured her head. She knew he had been up there. Liam just nodded, the ghosts of his past swirling around him. Changing the subject, Liam told her that his daughter had made something for her that while she was in the hospital. He led her inside where Lily's drawing was taped to the wall. It was a picture of Evelyn's specific aircraft model, soaring above the storm clouds towards a clear blue sky. On the bottom, in neat letters, a message was written. For Evelyn. Even the best pilots need a safe place to land. Evelyn stared at the drawing, her professional composure melting away. A single tear traced a path down her cheek. She turned, her eyes shining with a new understanding. Her voice thick with emotion as she addressed Liam. She explained that a debt like this couldn't be repaid with money, but she thought she knew a way to start. Looking past him towards Lily, she asked how his co-pilot would feel about getting some real flight time. Lily, who had been listening from the doorway, gasped. Her eyes, wide and luminous, darted to her father. The hope in them was so bright it was almost painful to see. Liam felt the old familiar pang of inadequacy, but looking at Evelyn's sincere face, he knew this was different. This wasn't charity. It was a pilot's honor. He whispered his assent, the single word releasing a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. The next day, Evelyn returned, not in a car, but at the controls of a beautiful two-seater trainer plane. She didn't just take Lily for a ride. She gave her a lesson. From the ground, Liam watched them taxi and take off, a perfect, graceful arc into the boundless blue. He felt a tear of his own, not of sorrow, but of profound, aching joy. When they landed an hour later, Lily practically flew out of the cockpit. She yelled to her dad as she jumped into his arms, her entire being radiating pure, unadulterated happiness. She exclaimed that Evelyn had let her handle the yoke, that she had felt the lift, and kept the wings level on the approach. Evelyn walked over, a warm smile on her face. She handed Lily not a toy, but a professional pilot's logbook, saying softly that every pilot needed one. She had already filled out the first entry. Date: today. Aircraft: Piper Cub. Route: first flight. Remarks: a natural pilot is born. Co-pilot: Lily. As Lily stared at the book as if it were the most precious treasure on earth, Evelyn put a hand on Liam's shoulder. She told him that Lily had the gift and he should never let her doubt that. Then, more quietly and just for him, she added that the sky was still up there for him too, and he shouldn't let a good pilot stay grounded forever. As Evelyn's plane became a speck in the sky, Liam looked from his daughter, who was tracing the words in her new logbook, to the old Cessna gathering dust in his hangar. For the first time in years, he didn't see a burden. He saw a promise. The wind still blew, but it no longer sounded like a lament. It sounded like an invitation.